Emergency repairs. There were some unanticipated repairs. Maintenance, some deferred maintenance we were able to do at the end of the year as well. Those were the first two line items. We have fuel. I know fuel is very expensive now. With money, we filled up the tanks. We have 4 tanks, as you know, 2 at Antolini, 1 at Bakerville, 1 in New Hartford, so we did fill those tanks up. The salary substitute teacher line item, as far as maternity leaves and teachers who were sick. We also have evaluations and consultations that comes under special education. So those are unanticipated there as far as testing for individual students. And the town pension fund is the next line item as far as the non-certified staff tapping into that. Additional people did tap into that than it was anticipated. And then we have 2 maintenance supplies line items for Antolini and Bakerville. And the last one is the pupil transportation with DATCO, as far as we know, that the contract was settled after the budget last year, so that's the cause of that deficit in that line item. Does anyone have any questions?
The salary substitute, are those the people that we're hiring from Kelly Services, or the ladies that, or the teachers that work for us per diem without Kelly?
Sure. So that's both. That's both.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Brian,
Yes.
can you elaborate a little bit on all these emergency repairs and unanticipated repairs?
Sure. So we had a freezer. I'll go over the big ones. We had the freezer at Antolini School that did break down. We have to replace it at $8,000. We had the dishwasher breakdown at Bakerville School. That was around $5,000. We also have the water storage tank here at Antolini, which will be almost $6,000 that just broke a few weeks ago. We have the asbestos verification that's coming up in June. That's for $2,000, $125. We have some tile replacement at Bakerville School at $4,200. We did have to repair some cracks at New Hartford Elementary School and Bakerville School for $2,300, but those are the main drivers as far as the deficit for repairs.
So you're taking from medical and dental insurance,
Yes,
it's like over $103,000.
yes,
Why do we have that much extra in for that?
yes. So you said we had some staff members who are not taking insurance, and that's why we have that surplus on that line item.
So
Right.
I'm sorry, did we budget for that much this year, coming here?
As far as health insurance, we budgeted appropriately, but that's changes throughout the course of the year. People jump on, they have families, things of that nature, so it's a moving target.
Well, it's a good thing we had that much
Yes.
flexibility. huh?
Yeah.
Brian, the items, those are the big ticket items, right?
Yeah.
I think I wrote them down quick as you were rambling them off, but it's like 25K.
Yeah.
Like 100,000 that we transferred.
So there's a longer list the entire year. So I'm just trying to cite the major ones.
We had that many unanticipated repairs, huh?
Yes, and deferred maintenance too. We had some opportunity to landscape at New Hartford Elementary School, things of that nature, provide mulch, so,
Without going through all of them, can we get a list?
sure.
Brian, how does this
Mix up
affect
that
the budget for the next couple of years? So like these unanticipated things that are coming up, like they're unanticipated? So how will you account for those changes in the budget for?
Sure. So it's not going to impact the budget at all moving forward. This is for this current year,
Yep,
so it shouldn't impact it at
shouldn't
all.
have, okay.
What is the water storage unit for?
Just storage water for the school here at Antolini.
So I thought we had a well,
We have a storage tank here at
Oh.
Antolini for the water.
and it's built from a well?
Yes?
Oh.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
And Brian, I'm sorry, school supplies, can you expand, like, what is that?
Sure.
So it says in two places, 9,000, 11,000 to increase the offset in school supplies, so what are we talking about?
Cleaning materials, paper
Okay.
towels, toilet paper.
Last year, I know we transfer every year. This seems like an excessive amount of transfer. I'm not excessive, more than last year. Is that an accurate statement?
I think, Tom, we have 4 or 5 last year. We have 9 this year, so it's a little bit more.
The total value, I mean, regardless of the number.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than last year,
I
yeah.
mean, are we talking about because of inflation? I mean, we go through college every year. We don't have any more kids and less kids, the same thing. I'm just thinking, like to Tim's point, it's a lot of money that I thought we already had in our budget and all our schools up and everything, better capital.
Yeah, so with maintenance and emergency repairs, there's always going to be issues that need to be addressed and keep up with. And there's always projects that are deferred. So we have an opportunity here to keep up and also enhance the learning environment of our schools here, our 3 schools. So,
If we didn't have these issues come up,
Yeah.
everything was crystal clear, clean, where would this money be going then? This
to the
100
town.
Huh?
To the town, surplus to the town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be a slight surplus at the end of this budget year, like 3,000 or 4,000 back to the town.
So speaking of the town, then can you just tell us about the town pension fund? Why are we added to that? Or why is that an unexpected expense, I guess?
Is because we had additional staff members who were tapping into that pension fund that we anticipated at the beginning of the year. And we work with Dan's First Selectman's office on that pension fund as well.
Brian, I didn't go through the, the 22 to 23 budget relative to these line items, but, and I don't know if you did, but do we have adequate funding for what is anticipated for these items relative to what we should have to transfer?
We do.
going forward?
Yes, we do.
So I'm sorry, not to go regress, but the town pension fund, is that different from the pension fund that the school has?
Yes, so the certified staff goes through the state pension, the TRB, Teachers Retirement Board. So this is for the non-certified staff members.
And we contribute to them, to the town fund every year?
Yes.
You need a motion?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the line item transfers as presented.
A second.
Who was that? Tony?
Tony.
Any other discussion?
In my opinion, I don't feel comfortable approving these without further detail.
Okay.
Is there something that's out of the ordinary?
Again, I don't know what $100,000 of unanticipated repairs is and $20,000 in paper towel and other supplies for them.
Well, these costs have already been paid out, right?
Yes.
So there's really not anything we can do about it.
Do you feel like there's anything that's out of the ordinary here, Brian?
No, like I said, this is an annual exercise every year, so.
Year to year, things change.
Yes,
costs
exactly,
change.
exactly. Yep.
Well, if we weren't to approve it, what would happen?
Be problematic because this is for the auditor that we need to ensure that we don't have significant line items of deficit.
When does that have to be approved? By June 30th?
Yes.
Would you be looking to see the increase in costs of like each paper towel or toilet paper that was used or every pencil that created these extra costs for us this year?
No, I'd like to see a list of what we spent $100,000 in budgeted money for medical and dental, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, because I'm not aware of $100,000 in unanticipated emergency repairs and/or offset unanticipated repairs.
If they're not anticipated, how could we show what the cost
Yeah.
of them would be?
Do you know what we spent the money on?
I don't, but we.
You don't,
put-
right?
we
So the
put
question
Brian
that
in
I'm
charge.
asking is, what is the list? Right?
So you'd like
That's
to see
what I've
a
asked.
detailed list of those
Exactly,
costs?
exactly.
before
That's
we
what I've
do
asked for. Yep.
Brad, can you get that, like a list for us
Yes,
and email it to us?
absolutely, yes.
And then we can improve it?
I'm hoping that there's a motion on the floor, so hoping it's approved tonight, but I could definitely get you a list, absolutely.
We don't have a meeting until August, so if we don't approve it tonight, we don't have it.
Do you have the list on your computer tonight?
No, I do not.
Is there a reason that we're not communicated on what these are throughout the time we're spending this money, Brian?
We never have done that before, but
Realistically, could Brian really make us aware of every situation throughout a school year where there's a cost that's more than was anticipated? Doesn't seem like a realistic ask from Brian.
$48,000 in emergency repairs.
So if
I'm not
there's an
saying- we're not-
emergency at the school that needs to be repaired, he should come and ask us before he repairs it?
I'm not asking for
I just want to know.
to give them approval. I'd like communication on where we're spending the money.
$50,000 worth of repairs. We're not asking for approval. If there's a leaking pipe, he's not going to have a staff, Board of Ed meeting say, can we fix the pipe? We're just asking what it is. So for you to,
No, we should know what it is. I mean, I agree with you guys, but at this point, I think we need to, accept the motion or approve the motion, and then we can get the list. And we know then we can maybe plan for it in the future.
I don't disagree with that either. But maybe next year, we have more information during this meeting, so we don't have to
Yeah, beforehand.
potentially have another meeting.
sure.
I mean,
Can, Tony, if you take back your second, I'll take back my motion. I will withdraw my motion.
Well, I think we have to approve it by the end of the month. Is that correct,
We have to
Carl?
approve it by the end of June, yes, but today is only what is today?
Seventh.
The 7th. So that leaves us 23 days.
But we're not meeting till August, so can we
could
do,
have a special meeting.
we could do a special meeting or a vote through?
Right.
But I'm just curious as to what we're gonna do otherwise. I mean, if we don't approve this tonight, what do we?
Then when
We're gonna
you-
get
when
a
you look
list
at-
of the
When you look at
costs
the
or
line
the.
items, you'll show that you're overrun in certain areas and you have a surplus in other areas.
Are these line items also addressed in the monthly, like,
they would
budget?
Yes,
line item
expenditure
that we get?
report,
So
yes.
technically, we've gotten all that information,
be correct.
so we're just now asking you to highlight that information for us that we've already
It's already
received?
been paid out. I mean, we can't, we can't.
Yes, it's in the, Travis, it's in the expenditures, but
So then why are we
it
asking
not
for
doesn't
detail?
say
out.
what it was for. It doesn't specify that it's to fix a leaky
Are you guys
boiler
all right
or
with him
repair steps or
Giving us a
whatever.
line item of what the expenses are, but we.
Well, we
approve
probably
it
should be
at this
asking at the
point
same
because
time.
We get the expenditure report every
I
meeting.
mean, we have to have it approved by the end of.
Yeah, money spent. There is no
So we have a
choice.
motion on the
But I think
floor.
next year we just change it.
Let's vote.
No, we're discussing, but I think next year we should have, for this transfer, I'm not opposed to the transfers. Just more information so that before we have the meeting, it's already there.
Sure.
That's all I'm asking.
Sure.
There's nothing, if the money's been spent, there's no sense sitting here and coming back 2 weeks from now and saying, okay. But
No, What's done is done.
that's all my point.
Agreed.
I mean, we've always had these, but
I
to your
understand.
point, it is more than what we passed.
But can you still send us a list of
I will.
what, like, that Tim asked for?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other discussion? So the motion on the floor is to approve the line item transfers. Penny, second by Tony. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next part, the superintendent's report. We have the Connecticut Junior Republic presentation. We have Barbara McLean, Student Services Director, Jennifer Grant from Connecticut Junior Republic. So I just want to inform the board that the mental health needs of our students have increased. And we know that from our internal assessments. As we know, it's been a very difficult couple of years. It's just accentuated those needs of students, not only here in New Hartford, but across the state. So our goal is to increase the capacity to service and help these kids starting next school year. So as you know, we have a social worker, a district social worker, 2 school psychologists. It's becoming very challenging to meet all of the mental health needs of our students. So I am proposing to partner with the Connecticut Junior Republic to hire a social worker, a part-time social worker, which would be 3 days a week for next school year to help meet the needs of our students. We hear from parents all the time that it's very difficult to get a private therapist. It takes 6, 9 months to get a counselor. So our kids are in need, and I think this will help our kids and our parents provide this wonderful service here. Connecticut Junior Republic does work at Region 7 the last few years very successfully. They do work with area schools. I know Jennifer will talk about that in a few minutes, very successfully. And I think this will be great for our kids. There is a piece that Jennifer will talk about as far as there's a piece of this with very acute needs, and the social worker through the Connecticut Junior Republic, that private insurance will come into play there. And Jennifer will talk about that. As far as very acute direct services, parents will need to approve that. And I want to be clear, not all of the social workers work with the kids, but very acute direct counseling and therapeutic services, the parents will have to okay that. Beyond that, there will be a cost to the New Hartford Public Schools. It'll be $35,000. It's not going to impact our operating budget for next year. It'll be through 2 grants, federal grants, to pay for this $35,000. It does not go beyond next year, so it's a commitment for 1 year, and we can reevaluate our needs after that. So at this time, Barbara, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Murphy. Thank you, Board, for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. We feel like this is a wonderful opportunity for the students in Hartford and for our district to have a community partnership with Connecticut Junior Republic. It's really the work that's being done with our mental health providers absolutely sets the conditions for teaching and learning. It connects back to our whole vision about teaching and improvement. Many of the skills that we work on with our mental health providers are the 21st century skills that all of our children need as they develop and grow as citizens in our community. To name a few: goal setting, the ability to recognize and regulate your emotions, the ability to effectively listen and consider the perspective of others before reacting, creative problem solving. I could go on and on. But this is a truly wonderful opportunity. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm still Jennifer Sever. So I'm going to introduce her and let her tell you more specifics about what this will look like in the Hartford this year.
Thank you guys for letting me come and feel here and make time tonight. To talk to you a little bit about this project and what we're doing in our state. As I said, I'm the director of behavioral health for the Connecticut Public and our wellness. And I'm really excited to be partnerships and the bringing of mental health services and support services to schools here in the county of Northwest Corner. I think sometimes we are forgotten up here that we too have needs, and it's a really exciting opportunity. For those of you I don't know, I'm born and raised in New Hartford, so that's a big play on that stage. This is a project to me that is really important. I'm still local in Northampton, so again, really excited to be able to bring this to this community. So our wellness center has been providing support services to children and families in this area since 2015. And it's been done in this area primarily out of our Torrington office or our Litchfield office in a very traditional manner of services. So a parent calls us, a school, nurse, social worker calls us, a pediatrician calls us, says if a kiddo is struggling for any number of reasons, the family needs the support. And so we work with them, they come to our office, we really engage with the family, and we provide them whatever the support it is they need for as long as they need it. But we know that with that, there's a lot of other things going on in life. And so while we all know that social emotional needs are really important for our children, between work schedules and running kids to 47 different sporting practices every week and all these other things, to try to get kids to weekly appointments sometimes becomes hard. And so back in 2017, we were having a conversation, I was having a conversation with the director of student services at Gilbert. And it was kind of a joke, but she's like, you see so many of our kids, I wish I could give you an office. And I was like, oh, we could do that. And so that's really where this started. And so we started 1 day a week, and now almost 3 social workers there 5 days a week. But we really started there, and parents loved it because it was like this kiddo is now getting a life skill, right? Social emotional learning is a life skill. It's the whole mecca of 2022. And they're getting it right within their school day. We work, with the schedule so that they're not missing classes and things like that. But it really took off. And so we piloted it in the spring of 2017 at Gilbert, rolled into the 2018-19 school year there with a much bigger team. There was much greater needs. And again, being the small kind of corner that we are up here, I then that spring get a call from Lindsay up at Northwestern, and she's like, Jen, what are you doing at Gilbert, and how do we get this in regional? So February of 2020, that got off the ground, and then we all know what happened in March of 2020. We all went home. But what was great with this project, one of the things that can happen is our therapists stayed with the kiddos all throughout the summer. So all throughout COVID, summers in between, we were able to work with the kids at Gilbert in Northwestern. So then coming back to school and things after COVID, we saw this huge uptick. We have kids, at the lower levels who have never been in school, and now suddenly they're in first grade or second grade, or kids at the high school level who were in elementary school when this all started. And so we're seeing a lot of anxiety and stress, and the team's not adapting well, and the school districts are really struggling because we have wonderful school social workers and we have wonderful school psychologists, but let's be realistic, there's a lot more kiddos than there are of them, and even if they see a kid every hour of every day, they're seeing a very small percentage of our student body. And so we were finding by having more clinicians in the building, the kids who had higher needs, we could see individually, and that's what we'll talk about in a minute, the insurance Brian was talking about. But on the other half of the week, the half of the district supports, we can support those in the staff. We can be in the classroom if there's something going on. We can sit with a kiddo that's having a hard time if the social worker is somebody else. So it really became this great partnership. And so coming into this school year that's coming to an end, we ended up in Womogo, so it's more North Ocean, all 4 of the Plymouth schools, and then going out of the northern corner a little bit, but with Greenville schools, and then coming into this coming school year, hopefully be able to be partnering with Hartford, Thomaston, and then a bigger project, which is way out of Litchfield County, but Waterbury schools. So the need is there, and I think if anything good has come out of COVID, it's been this awareness of the need to support our kids in this way. So to talk a little bit about what Brian was saying, so the district pays for, basically we hire a clinician, they'll be a licensed or licensed eligible clinician who will be here in the buildings that's determined here in New Hartford 5 days, they'll be in 3 days a week. And part of their time, half of their time will be spent supporting the social workers, the school staff, the guys and members, and that could look like running a group, it could look like just sitting with a kid that's having a hard day, it could look at going into a classroom and supporting the teacher, it could be running some social emotional learning lesson plans. Then the other part of their time is working with kids individually, which would be no different than if the kid was referred, if mom or dad called us up and said, I really want to get my kiddo into your office and Torrington for an appointment. So we should say, that's great, if it's okay with you, if it works for you, we can put them right in school and save you that extra piece. And if that route, and that the social worker would spend about half of their week doing that. And that's the piece where it would be no different than if they came to see us in our office as far as parental consent, right? Parents signing all the intake paperwork, doing all the assessments, being part of that process. The same releases are still in place, so just because we're seeing a child in school doesn't mean that I can run to the school social worker or the history teacher and say, hey, guess what, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't work that way. It's just like if you were coming to the office, if I feel, or my clinician feels we need to speak to the school about something, they're gonna make sure that there's a release in place and that the family knows that they're talking to the school. So all of those same things are important. It also allows these kids to have access to services throughout the summer. So in some districts, we remain in the building in the summer because there's administrators in the building anyway. Other districts, we just have the kiddos coming to the office in the summer, or we do telehealth. They have access to our psychiatrist should they need that. They have access to family therapy, case management, anything that the family might need in that half. And that half our insurance pays for. And so we accept insurance we don't accept. So accept all the insurances. We have grant funding that helps offset costs when they have an accessible plan or something like that. So we don't turn away for any inability to pay. So that's really like it in a really fast nutshell. Is there anything like you want me to cover that didn't cover or I was really fast?
Who does the billing to the insurance?
So we have a billing department at Sarah that takes care of all of that.
Okay.
Again, it would be just like they're a client in our office, so when we intake them, the first thing we would do is, we would have a referral system set up here where the school social workers or whoever sees the person in the school would make a referral to us. They would have already reached out to the family to get permission to make that referral. We would then call the family, say, hi, you were referred. We would work with them to set up an intake, and we send an intake to them via DocuSign, so that they can do all that paperwork, and that includes all of those insurance authorization forms and all of that. And then we set up a time to do an assessment, and that assessment can be done in the office in the evening if they all want to come, right? And then we move forward to the kids' school. We could do it in school with a hybrid of the kid in our office and Zoom the parent in now that we have that technology. Or in some schools, it depends on all the different policies and code procedures and all that, but, the parent can stay in the building for the assessment. So, and then we remain in regular contact with them, but building functions.
Okay, thank you.
How did the 3-day get chosen? Was that a monetary decision or a need decision?
It was a need decision at this time.
A need decision.
Consider, we looked at the needs of the district holistically, considering the number of mental health providers that we currently have. And that's how we determined that it is appropriate, especially since it's our first year, pilot year. We want to see, we want to see how it goes. Something we're going to look at annually.
So how does this, I'm sorry.
John, how you doing?
How does this differ from the social worker that we have now hired full-time? I mean, is it different or is it a supplement to it?
So I think, yeah, so it is a little bit different in that our school social worker and our school psychologist, their, purview is really school-based therapies and support. And what CBR can offer is a little bit more of the intensive counseling and directing,
Yeah, and I think there's also just that balance of, there's one social worker and, how many kids in the school, even if they see a student every hour of every day, it's very difficult to get to all the kids that may or may not need that support. So it's really just to augment the services that they're already providing. They aren't able to do that longer term therapy, as you were saying. So if they're seeing a kid and, they'll say they think the child needs some more long-term support, they can then refer to us. We can continue to do that. The other piece of this is just so that I always want to make this clear to people. If somebody, let's say the school says, we think your child would benefit from this, the parent doesn't want the child to the school, that's okay too. We can still see the child in one of our offices if that's something we feel we have to do. So it's not like that's off the table. That is still absolutely an option. But this is something that just sort of makes it a little more convenient. And we have also seen that it really has increased attendance and school performance for some of these kids just to know that they have another support in the building that day.
Brian, you said the first year pilot is we're going to get $35,000 grant from federal.
Yeah.
So you know me, I'm always nervous about money coming from federal and what, because nothing's free, right? So what are the stipulations for, first of all, I'm a huge fan. Like, it's a really tragedy that we have a massive mental health issue. It's not surprising given what we just went through. It's a disaster. But I'm nervous about the money, right? So what do we have to give away to get the money? What do we have to do?
So we don't have to give anything away.
So what's the
so the-
paperwork say?
Those two grants allow us, there's certain areas that you could spend the money on, and this is one area we could do that. The federal REAP grant and the federal IDEA grant, special education grant, it allows us to spend this money for mental health services.
Okay. And there's no, like, we have to do something in order to get the
No.
money? There's no, so we're just getting this money?
That's right.
So do we have like the form that says that what the stipulations are, or what it like written out? that
Well,
you
yeah,
can-
there's certain requirements of a grant, yes, what we could spend it on, yes.
Can you provide that for us, or is that,
Sure.
okay? And it's a year, right now it's just a year? and then
1 year
if it-
commitment,
And
yeah.
if it works well, we can apply for the funding again in year 2 and ask for more funding?
And I think there's so much coming down the federal pipe at this point with mental health services. Well, we don't-
Right.
I may have missed it, but are we talking one clinician across the 3 schools?
So we are looking at our business needs and so where to place staff. So I often have that conversation. Equal is not same, it does not, equal does not necessarily mean fair. So there are certain buildings that have greater needs. And we are looking to place our staff where those greater needs are to ensure that we are equitably supporting. All buildings will have support. They'll just look different.
But the 35,000 is for one person, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Need a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
Well, actually, I do have one more question. Is there a reason why we're using, nothing, no offense or anything, is this something that we have to go through Connecticut Junior Republic as opposed to hiring out on our, independently?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Tony. And there's a little bit of history behind how this all came about. So pre-COVID, Jen came and met with Brian and I about when she was first starting the supports over in Gilbert and I think Northwestern to pitch the idea. And at that point, it was just for this kind of outpatient therapy happening in the school. And then literally before we even got to really any action on it, COVID happened, and everything kind of stalled. So we've been, doing a lot of work in district with our internal screening, we were seeing a need, and just through kind of a brainstorm with the superintendent, we talked about, hey, let's circle back to Jen and see what's going on. So I reached out, and she shared with me, actually, she said, we have this opportunity for, revamp things, and there's like this hybrid model where we offer these mental health supports that can happen outside of school, in school, but we can also support you during the school day. We talked about what that would look like, and that was very appealing to our needs in this district, and it seems to be a good fit. And the other plus to this is if we were to hire someone independently, the salary for that would be significantly more than $35,000. It would be, probably closer to the $80,000 mark. So this is an economical way for the district to get quality, high quality mental health support for our kids at a very reasonable rate that we're providing.
Because they're a nonprofit, right? So are you a nonprofit? Right, so that's how we're able to get this at a significant, you've got
So
funders
we
and,
hire the person, we pick up their whole
Right.
salary and are just contracting out with you
Yeah.
for.
got it.
Great.
Makes
Thank you.
sense, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So do you want a motion to approve?
Partnership with Connecticut Junior Republic for the
I'll make a motion.
2022-23 year.
All right, I'll make that motion. You're seconding?
Yeah,
Further discussion, thank you, Jen.
thanks, Jen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
Jennifer.
Barbara. Thank you, Jen.
Next on the agenda is public comments.
Oh, my
I did not get any communication from
I did not.
anyone like to speak. Next on the agenda, consent agenda, approval of the minutes, and it's been a report. Brian, do you have anything you want to say on personnel?
Yes, Carl, thank you very much. So at the end of each year, there's always changes, and we do have a few changes as far as staff, personnel. For next year, I'd like to acknowledge a few people who are moving on, retiring, moving on to new jobs. So Rick Koenig is retiring after 19 wonderful years. He's the custodian at New Hartford Elementary School. Carol Paluccio, 37 wonderful years in the New Hartford Public Schools. Jen Harris is here tonight, 16 years, moving on for an administrative degree, position at Ed Advance. And Kara DeSantis, who is moving on for another position here in New Hartford. And finally, Sue Boucher, 26 wonderful years, a teacher here in New Hartford, is retiring. So we wish them all the best. They really did a tremendous service for the kids in New Hartford. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, anybody have any reason to pull the minutes, or can I have a motion to approve?
Do the minutes, okay.
Okay, pull the minutes. Do you have any changes?
No.
Oh, we'll just abstain from the motion.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So are we pulling the minutes or not?
No, she was.
Okay, fine.
So we'll abstain. Any motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make the motion.
Tom, is it second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I wasn't here.
Thank you, are here.
So Mary and Travis
Mary
abstain?
and Travis,
I should actually say,
you are
I
here.
wasn't here.
It's just the three of you, right? Anything that way? All right, so everyone approves other than Travis, Mary, and Kelly who abstain? Good. All right, thank you. All right. So, where are we on the agenda?
Interview.
All right, I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session at 7:40 for the purpose of conducting interviews of candidates for the position of principal of Bakerville School, New Hartford Elementary School, inviting candidates separately, and Brian Murphy into portions of the executive session.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
So someplace you have that motion written down?
County